got to admit, today was really one of those days when I didn't want to get out of bed. But I do have the promise of a coast road all the way to Valencia, so let's keep our fingers crossed and see what happens. Scrub oranges or tangerines, I'm not quite sure which. In the UK we have blackberries growing by the roadside, but here there's these bushes. There's quite a few of them along here. You probably can't see that well on this camera, but it's weird. I turned off this way in that attempt yet again to look for the coast road, or at least cycle by the seaside, but this kind of more or less goes by the sea, but there's no real sea route, and the map's just about to take me back onto the main road, so it was a bit of a dead end. So probably half a mile or so out my way, but these things happen. As you see by my quest for constantly getting by the sea, I've got a vague idea in the direction I want to go in, but I don't always take the right path to get there. And I suppose that's a bit like life really, because like we kind of know where we want to go in life and we know roughly how to get there, and if things don't quite turn out, we just adjust, move this way, move that way, and kind of still keep going in that same general direction. And we're adaptable enough to do that. That's the thing, adaptability and being adaptable. I know that my daughter probably isn't as adaptable if life takes a turn of events that she's not quite sure how to handle or deal with. So, when we were thinking about what the future might hold for her and how she's going to make the transition from school into work, a part of what we had to do was also think about a life plan for her, not just a transition from school plan, but a general life plan about how and where and what she's going to do in her life and those sort of things. So we started this when she was way too young to really participate in the conversation. And it wasn't one of those life plans, a bit like the wheel of life, where you sort of have your relationships and then your work and your hobbies and all of this, and you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 and that sort of thing. That's not going to work for my daughter. It needs to be a plan about how she's going to live life, so she has a solid life, so everything is in place for her. So when I'm thinking about that, I'm probably thinking along 4 main components of a life plan, which is daily living skills, which is how she's going to live in her house or wherever she lives, and travel and those sort of managerial things, like keeping things clean, organising your diary, planning where you're going to be, when, that sort of stuff. The second category, I suppose, is relationships. That is relationships with people, because people change, your relationships with people change, and things don't remain constant. And also, you have different types of people in your life. You have your very close people, which are friends and family, and then you have more distant people, which are people that you work with or meet at the doctor's reception or whatever, or even the doctor, him or herself. They're more static relationships because you only know them on a very surface level. You don't actually really know them deeply. But when you know people deeply, your relationship with them evolves and changes constantly over time, because you have new experiences that you bring to the friendship or relationship, and so does the other person. So that's why it's always constantly moving. The third category is what next after education. Fortunately, my daughter has made that transition from school to work via a supported internship, so we're really happy about that. But what we do in a day, our purpose in the day, is a big part of how we live our lives. We spend a third of our lives in bed asleep, a third of our lives doing whatever we do, which still leaves another third. But if you don't have that third of doing whatever you do, that's an awful long time in the day to fill without any real sort of occupation or purpose. So having a purpose is a key part, I feel, of a life plan for my daughter. And then the last one, of course, is financial, because we all need money to live. We need money to pay the bills. We need money to go out with friends. We need money to do everything. But my daughter controls all the money that she has, and we've also set up a trust as well for money that we intend to leave her in the future. So these are probably the 4 main components of a life plan that we think about for our daughter. So I'm hoping that once she really gets old enough and mature enough, she's going to really buy into the conversation, because she has been in bits and pieces now, and that's good, but there's still lots of it that Deborah and I are still thinking about for her. But we need to get to the stage where it becomes hers, where it's her ownership of the plan, because she has to own it, because at the end of the day it is her life, and it's her life, especially once we're not here to help and support her. So she needs to have an idea about how she wants to manage her life plan, so that if things do take a turn, she can make slight adjustments, but she needs an overall idea of where her life's going. So that's what Deborah and I have been really trying to do over these last few years to help her. I've arrived, Valencia. The cycle paths through the city are absolutely fantastic. So yes, it's a great place for cyclists. Been a flat day, so that's been good, but there's just been a strong headwind the whole way, so I've had to work to get here, certainly, but now I'm here. I'm looking forward to finding myself some water and getting settled in. The route was fairly straightforward today, quite a lot by the coast, no hills to mention, and a nice smooth run into Valencia. Day 15 summary, 46 miles, which brings the total up to 609, leaving 391. There wasn't much hill climbing, 80 metres, which is 262 feet, so the total elevation hasn't changed much really. 6,630 metres or 21,751 feet. If you have liked this video, please like and subscribe.